Hello, welcome, Camille. Thank you for joining me in the Moral Fairground Zoom room today. How are you going?
Good, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here. And, thank you for reaching out. It's a great opportunity to be able to speak with you and share a little bit more.
Oh, look, it's a fantastic opportunity to connect with you given the conference is coming up next week. And, you're running a powerful social impact business. And that's what you'll be presenting a bit at the conference too. I wonder will you take us through your social impact business and some of your journey so far?
Yeah, absolutely. Nonetheless, it has been a journey, and I'm thrilled to be a part of Moral Fairground. Funnily enough, I did enter one of their competitions last year and didn't get through, but I realize there's always a time and place for these sorts of opportunities. So starting working within fashion sustainability, the idea that textile waste was a problem sort of came across my plate several years ago, working with a company, Forever New, in Melbourne, sort of somewhat of a high street fashion company. And traditionally trained as a textile designer. I've worked in the industry for about a decade. And it's sort of one of those opportunities once you sort of come across sustainability. I've always been conscious of a personal footprint, but you definitely go down the rabbit hole of going, well, what else is out there? What more information can I learn from, or where can I have an impact? What does this mean for future generations? What does this mean for the industry, and where does the disruption come from? And it was a number of sort of steps that led to the organic process of me understanding better, more about other than just textile waste and these sorts of statistics. But there was definitely greater impact to be had in numbers and through collaboration. And that was reaching out to local experts of who I came across literally by Googling, who was in Australia at the time. And it was sort of pulling together some resources. And mind you, I'd written a sustainability department for Forever New when I worked for the company several years ago. It was too forward of its time, but nonetheless a good experience for me to learn. And I thought, well, if I'm going to be freelance textile designing myself and going across to Sydney, how can I incorporate some of these unique aspects into my business and selling B2B and sort of strengthen that opportunity? Well, you're purchasing a unique Australian product, and then you also, did you know this is a recycled fabric? This is printed on. Can you incorporate this into your business model? So on and so forth. My partner said to me that there's more to be had here. You should create a bigger event around this and bring together the people that you're reaching out to and asking to have coffee catch-ups with. And there started the initial foundings of the conference. My partner's like, 50 or 80 people maybe in the room would be a great start. And I'm like, no, 300 people. It's industry-only event, big impact. And it was sort of within 8 to 9 months that I put everything together and ran the conference in March in Sydney this year. Successful event considering first time run, and close to 300 attendees from a number of professional networks within the fashion industry, and sort of conversations around a few other experts who I've kept in touch with, and particularly off the back of the conference, we announced we'd start an industry peak body to support the transition from a linear model to full circularity. And in the past several months, we've been able to work more strongly on that. And that opportunity has really shone through. And so proud to say that not too long in the later year, and then definitely at the conference, we'll be able to say we can launch an industry body to support, to literally support this. And the conversations around that have been just tremendous. So it's definitely harnessing that motion, continuing the momentum, and the drive around people's enthusiasm is infectious, and that gives you the inspiration to go forward and continue on definitely down this path.
It's inspirational. I can really imagine that being in fashion, it was one of maybe the bedrock industries where some of the greatest tragedy was being experienced in terms of ethical impact, but non-ethical impact. And so it's a real celebration that you've been able to harness that shift that's happening of consciousness about being responsible in our purchasing decisions. So tell us about that circular model, and just give us a brief overview of sort of what's being talked about at the conference. It's in March, isn't it, next year?
Correct, yeah. So definitely linking straight back to the circular model. Thank you for bringing that up, because the topics that I'm looking to talk to are the 5 key spokes of strategy. It's positioned for much more of a business concept as opposed to the environmental circular model, because talking eco-friendly and green doesn't necessarily win the industry over. So got to pitch it as, this is a business transition. So strategy, marketing, having the key influences from the top down of a business, make sure the decisions are spreading across the tribe of the whole community. Talking about resourceful materials, end of life processing and use, design phase, and definitely the fundamentals of what will be the pinpoints of starting the transition of the model. So very much working for industry. I do talk to and about a little of what the consumer can do and play. There is a role on either side. It's both sides of the spectrum that definitely have to contribute, and no one in particular is responsible for making the change over the other. So the transition phase has to be spoken about at both ends equally at the same time. And I've just learnt that Melbourne Fashion Festival will also be incorporating a little bit more sustainability in their programs for 2019, and that will be launching 2 weeks before the conference, and we're on the 21st and they finish on the 10th of March, which is a fantastic opportunity to also again say, well, if we can grab some of that information that's being said and shared with the consumer, how can we directly impact the industry of the 500 plus delegates that we'll have in the room? So they've got some real-time evidence of what's happening with consumers, because they're still having a bit of a disconnect to where they should be placing end-of-life use products, how they can make stronger purchase decisions. Apparently Googling is still a bit too confusing for them. Whereas the industry can't necessarily Google, what can I do? And yeah, so I mean, definitely focusing back on the circular wheel. The conference will have international guests, which have a key aspect and role for what they've been able to do in their business models. The likes of Eileen Fisher, Philippa Kay, Professor Berkioli from Mistra, also Ollie Milliner from Kathmandu. I suppose he's the most local representative that we'll have, because Kathmandu have been able to really transform their business model really successfully, and Australia is their biggest market, and then they've got a huge international buying opportunity in America to be able to convey their message of sustainability amongst the other big outdoor brands over there. So that's really promising to be able to at least host someone who Kathmandu have had a tricky transition phase in the past, of probably 5 to 6 years of where they've come to and where they can celebrate their wins now.
It's a real there's a real sense of progress as you speak. I hear perhaps more about the transition than I would have come across as a consumer, and I know as consumers we do have a sense of growing responsibility about our purchasing decisions in fashion, and that there's more choice. And I think that's the beauty of what you're doing, is facilitating those conversations for more powerful choice for consumers to be able to purchase ethically. So, you know, it's a real gift to the community that you're doing what you do. Well, tell us what you're bringing to the Ethical Enterprise Conference in terms of your experience with what you've been building, and what would you hope to see in the conversations at the Ethical Enterprise Conference? Yeah,
good question. I know there's a huge, as you mentioned at the start, there's a huge focus on collaboration and inclusion. So where else can we see academia play a key role, and perhaps influencing some more, high level strategy, a bit more data and content related specifically to the problems that we still have a challenge with, even though we're a very knowledgeable society these days and we have the opportunity to engage and network like never before. Funnily enough, there's still quite a big gap in content and specific metrics around, well, what's influencing decisions behind consumer purchases versus where industry are getting their data from of their suppliers, and what their impact is in the environment. And I'd like to see from fellow organizations, I know there's some terrific strong speakers and some fantastic brands coming along. I think Lush, they stand out in my mind because they've got such strong core values and a representation of where they see themselves fitting in with the market. And there's no confusion around that. So how can that also be adopted to other companies? I find that there's a lot of strength to be able to come out as a company and an individual and be proud to be aligned with your goals and values. And as you said at the start, well, Intrepid. So if Intrepid have come across some social impact that perhaps was not there at the start, but their brand has formulated that because they're getting feedback, they're getting positive, strong feedback. What a triumph to be able to come out loud and proud to the market and be expressive and a driving force. So it's definitely an opportunity where big companies, there are some lovely big corporates coming along. We would always like to see more of them putting their hands up to participate. But where else can they also have the impact to say right across the board of driving change and this term may have been thrown around a couple of times in some of the other conversations about the sort of almost the fourth industrial revolution, because these companies have a responsibility to drive and ensure the economic prowess of Australia in every different category, that we've just got a strong market as much as anybody else globally, and how can we also contribute and be leaders in the space. And likening that back to the fashion industry, because we have such a competitive market of international players, you guys need to, you know, pick up your game, adapt and roll with the flow over the next 5 to 10 years, and also be collaborative and learn from other industries who are doing it well.
Absolutely. I think that's, you know, I agree that there's a great opportunity to be learning from each other and to be inspiring the next generation of leaders coming up, because, you know, I have this sense that you guys have been the groundbreakers of real shifting times for our rising social awareness and impact. Tell me a bit about the challenges of the journey for you. What's it been like being on the path less travelled in fashion? Tell us some more.
You know, you probably know the couple of things I'm going to say, but nonetheless, when you're heading full force front on with something that's a new concept, particularly with both sides, again, community and business, that there's the challenges have been fun, like all in all, honesty, funding these opportunities to say that there's merit in doing good, and there's merit in looking after doing, you know, due diligence, responsibility for your stewardship and end of life processes, and what you're importing to the country, and the way you communicate to your market. You have so much responsibility as a company to be able to do better and do more. And you know, these companies that are also popping up as, you know, organizations internationally that are working in the same space, as much as I want to be an equal player to them, and I'm connecting and reaching out to them to say, you know, let's bridge the gap between the southern and northern hemisphere. Those conversations are incredibly strong, but how do we not become also pigeonholed as a classic not-for-profit organization, charitable arm that is a do-gooder? Because where business goes, if we can actually help build a business, grow a business, why shouldn't you be supported and paid for the knowledge that you're actually accruing, that's saving them time and money by joining the dots for them? And, you know, the core fundamentals of what sustainability mean goes far beyond environmental impact. And it also means, well, how can one individual or a company or whatever it is it's working on be sustainable from every other measure? It's like the 3 Ps, the people, profit, planet stuff. So the people that are doing good should definitely get, you know, helped a long way. That's one of the biggest challenges. Overcoming your own hurdles. So that's self-growth. And you know, when you hit it is when you either like, I don't know what to do, a bit, you know, a little bit scared, or a little bit, I don't want to do this. Fortunately, I have a very strong partner who's got a heart of gold, and he's incredibly supportive, and he's incredibly knowledgeable, and he's been able to give me a tremendous push in the right direction for all the right reasons. And he can be very hard on me on the times that I should be overcoming these personal hurdles. So there's also strength and merit into the people that you have and surround with you. And as these opportunities come, naturally those people around you grow, and you become even more bolder and brilliant, because you're reaching different levels that you may not have been. So if you had have asked me 2 years ago, would you be doing this? You'd be like, heck no, like, what does that look like? How did I get there? So yeah, I'd say funding, you know, in the social economy that we live in, how experiences and lives have lived and played out these days, I've foregone traditional income for the past 12 months to be able to follow a passion and a dream. And nonetheless, it's all about timing. So now's the right time to just, you know, head down, bum up, and keep working.
Yeah, thank you. Like, that's inspirational to hear. Thank you, because I think there's a lot of people in for purpose motivations in startups who, you know, they're driven to want to contribute in socially well-being ways, and yet there are these personal hurdles, not only the funding, but also like, how do we support each other to move through the personal fears of breaking new ground where there might be strong opinions or resistance about the work that we're doing. So, you know, thank you for being one of the ones willing to give that a good go. I just want to say thank you for bringing our awareness to the Circular Fashion Conference next March. And Is there a website people can go to for that they can look into it a little bit more?
Absolutely. You can definitely hit me up at camille@acta.global. But the conference website is australiancircularfashion.com.au. And there's a good overview of what the program has to offer. I will be sending out more updates and whatnot to the email database, as you always do. But I haven't listed sort of the speakers and whatnot just yet because I'm sort of waiting for that big bang effect. But as I mentioned, engaging with fellow international organisations, Planet Arc are coming on board as a media partner, and talking to other fellow corporates. Australia Post will come and speak again this year. Next year they spoke this year. So the aspect is to be able to have as much feeling in the room from different corporates who, again, are practicing sustainability in different ways in their business to adopt across into the fashion industry. And the excitement is meant to be focused on the innovation, the inspiration that we're going to be listening to from these speakers. And then the following day we'll have workshops, five workshops back to back. And that's to immerse the attendees into the opportunity to fast track some of the and overcome some of the barriers that they face within their companies at the moment, and bring along fellow employees to be able to, because we know one person can't do this in one big fashion company, but it's definitely having that collaboration, inclusiveness, even from fellow teammates, not just from industry, and got to take them out of their silos.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned it in our personal realm that, you know, having a terrific support team is going to make the difference. I think what you're saying is it also makes a big difference when we bring our teams to these sorts of events and actually really immerse a team of support around the change that's needed. And I think that's what really speaks to me about the Ethical Enterprise Conference next week on the 25th and 26th of October. I'm looking forward to the same sense of enthusiasm and innovation and excitement, not only around the conference and the breakout sessions, but the Ethical Enterprise Awards and the pitching competition. There's just so much happening that inspires me to be a part of this growing community in this country. And I'm really delighted and really grateful to have had the chance to connect with you today. So thanks, Camille. And
fantastic. Absolute pleasure, Karen. You know, thank you for the great questions as well. And I'm equally as excited to go to the conference and see that, as you said, innovation strategy and that fun and excitement come through, and the community is really growing month on month, which is just brilliant.